Marcus Conte did a video about me, and well, it wasn't necessarily about me, it was about really Dave Acton's lawsuit against Jason Goodman, but he brought my name into it, so I felt the need to respond, especially because I did actually do an interview on Marcus's show a few weeks ago. I've been quite praiseworthy of Marcus Conte in the past. I think he did a really good job getting the autopsy report for Jen Moore. He brought in that really cute girl with the mask on. So, he has the ability to meet hot girls and get them to do things to help him out, which, that actually says quite a lot about his character, if that was all a legit circumstance coming about. But he got the autopsy report, he went through it on his channel. As far as I know, he didn't publish it on the web or anywhere like that, or Twitter, where it would be easy for people to download, but maybe I was wrong about that. And it raised a lot of questions. Was it even the same person? Who ID'd the body? The same situation we have with Isaac Cappy as well. And I believe in the case of Tracy Twyman, it was her husband who found her hanging and ID'd the body. But, we know that that's a trademark cause of death for the cabal, is this hanging. And Jen Moore was a researcher into pedophilia and child sex trafficking, all that kind of stuff. She was really, really big on that. She was calling out the Arizona Mafia and Craig Sawyer literally days before her death. But she didn't die from hanging. So what's up with that, right? Like, isn't in itself that sort of interesting? Because if there's any one of these mysterious YouTube deaths that, was related to investigating that type of activity, I would think for sure Jen Moore. I mean, yeah, Tracy Twyman was looking into the occult. She was looking into Isaac Cappy's death and some of the things around that. But I don't think she was, particularly well known for, being on that Pizzagate topic. I mean, perhaps one of her bigger fans can prove me wrong. I mean, one thing I've learned about Tracy is there's some massive fans of her work out there. And I certainly, I like my interactions with her as a person. I would have described myself as a fan of Tracy, but in looking into her body of work, all this Baphomet stuff and everything, it's like, it's pretty full on, People that are mucking around with Ouija boards, it's the realm of the dead, and then they enter the realm of the dead for real and can't come back. So I would say you don't muck around with that type of stuff. And, a couple of significant things about Marcus. He said he was going easy on me while he, proceeded to tell a bunch of lies about me and attack me and attack my research. He doesn't criticize any of the research. He just uses guilt by association to say, oh, well, if Steve supports Dave Acton and I don't like Dave Acton, then Steve is obviously a LARPer and a shill and he's getting $3,000 a month or whatever the fuck he was on about. But if you look into this guy's background, it's quite interesting. And he came out as this whistleblower for the New York Sanitation Department about overcharging and things like that, which, just like with Snowden, right? Snowden came out and he's like, you know what? The NSA is spying on you and listening to everything that you say on the phone and every email you send. And people were like, what? Holy shit, the government fucking spies on us? What? I've never heard anything like that. Well, John Perry Barlow came out in 1992 and said that, and those papers are still on the web. It's on the EFF website, and there've been many whistleblowers before Snowden. Thomas Drake, William Binney, who I believe meets with Robert David Steele every month. That kind of says something about the guy. He's the guy who wrote this code to spy on everybody, and he goes on Jason Goodman's show. So, there's whistleblowers, there's real ones and there's fake ones. And, remember DeFango says he went to this DEF CON Sky Talk breakout session talking about, what was the topic? Whistleblowers. And then, there he is trying to infiltrate WikiLeaks, teaming up with Trevor Fitzgibbon, WikiLeaks PR, although I don't think he's involved with that anymore, but he's connected to Chelsea Manning as well. And then John Podesta, Center for American Progress. Then DeFego's trying to infiltrate Unity for Jay. According to Lestat, he took over some sort of e-commerce site of theirs and directed the funds to his own account. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't believe anything Lestat says. But I think certainly it does seem like DeFango got kicked out of Unity for J. And just while I'm on that topic, I'll make a quick digression, because if you go to my Wikipedia page, it says that I voted for the Internet Party in New Zealand in the elections in 2017, which is true. I did do that, and I wasn't allowed to say it before the election. That's the law here, but after the election you're allowed to, and the results get published, and in each electorate you can see how many votes there were. And I'm in the central business district of Auckland, which is where Kim.com was living, right? And he's the founder of the Internet Party. His wife Liz is a New Zealand citizen, and they moved down to Queenstown. He's got a big spread down, I think it's around Arrowtown, beautiful part of the world. But at the time of the election, as far as I know, this is where he was living. And so in this district in Auckland, the Internet Party got two votes, and one was me. So was the other one Mrs.com? Because I'm the original .com guy of New Zealand, although I launched my internet company in Australia. So I guess we give it to Kim on a technicality, even though he's German and Finnish. I hope they do give him Kiwi citizenship, and I hope he beats the deep state that's going after him. It's a terrible case. But getting back to Conte being a whistleblower, right at the time I thought that was super legit. And then he goes on Jason Goodman's show, as that's the first stream he does debuting on YouTube, as far as I know. That's certainly where I came across him first, and then Lift the Veil, got involved, helped him out, helped promote his story a bit. And I think Marcus picked up a lot of audience from Nathan's community, which obviously I'm a proud member of. I get attacked for going on his show. I don't give a fuck. I'll go on his show, and I'll go on whatever show I want, and I'll be friends with whoever I want on YouTube, and I'll dislike whoever I want on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. And if you don't like it, who cares? Fuck you, man. Just, why can't everybody be allowed to like and dislike who they want? Why is it that gangs of people come and attack on social media and discredit, disparage, misrepresent, tell lies about, people who talk about certain topics, or who criticize certain YouTubers, or seem to not dislike the ones that they dislike? There's a whole spate of that going around at the moment, and I thought that Marcus was bigger than that, but maybe he's not. But when you look deeper into his background, you'll see that he came out of a cult. He was in a cult for like 8 years. Shambhala, I believe it was called, like a meditation cult. And he comes out of a cult, then he becomes the sanitation employer whistleblower, exposing corruption in the thing that everyone really was quite aware that there was corruption in, right? Like it, and that then lets him enter the YouTube truther community with some kind of something behind him saying, hey, look at me, I'm legit. I'm not a cult member now becoming a YouTuber. I'm this whistleblower. Okay, fair enough. And I wonder how many other big voices in the truther community have some sort of cult background like that in their past. I certainly don't have anything like that. I was baptized Anglican. My dad's parents were Catholics, and I found out after my grandfather passed away that both he and my grandmother were Freemasons. So I never knew any of that while he was alive, but I always used to enjoy talking to my grandfather about pyramids and stuff like that, and mathematics and geometry and sacred geometry. And so, that sort of explains I've got like a genetic interest in that type of thing, I guess. But, I'm not part of that secret society, and I think there is a lot of good in it. I don't wish anyone ill that's part of it, but when you turn into like Baphomet, the androgyny, the pentagram, the Enochian magic, the summoning dark spirits, like this is the dark side of the occult, and I'm repulsed by that. That's the work of the devil, Stay way the fuck away from that. Aleister Crowley is responsible for so much of the badness that's in this world, but you can't see him as Satan incarnate, as like the Jesus Christ of Satans or something. He was an intelligence agent coming from secret societies and elite wealthy families. He came from a beer owning family, brewers, and they were brethren, like the Plymouth Brethren, that the colonies that was part of the founding of the United States. The exclusive brethren, you can trace that out to Australia, Prime Minister John Howard, I believe, is connected to that particular cult. You've got Julian Assange came out of a cult, the Santinican Park cult, with Anne Hamilton Byrne, who recently passed away at the age of 96. Was she into some of this baby's blood or eating the brains of their enemies to get the mana kind of stuff? I don't know, but she tortured kids with LSD experiments as part of the Australian MK Ultra in a cult that Julian Assange was in. He comes out of it, he becomes a hacker, somehow gets caught. He's at Melbourne University, which is probably the top university in Australia, certainly one of the top three. And there's reports that he was working on NSA projects while he was at Melbourne University. So, WikiLeaks, the whole thing of WikiLeaks itself, I don't believe is completely legit. It really seems to me like a limited hangout and the first example of this sort of weaponized private intelligence agency where it can be used to go after certain targets. And the one target that's conspicuously absent from WikiLeaks is a certain small country who's known to be very active in interfering with the affairs of other countries and having a strong presence on the internet. So if you go to their website and type that country's name in, and I'm sure you can guess which one it is, about 50 articles come up. And if you look through them, there's really not much that's controversial in their archive of that, right? Compared to the other stuff they've put out, compared to Pizzagate or whatever. But, what countries are involved in organ trafficking and child trafficking, international sex trafficking, arms trafficking, well, we know what those countries are. Everybody knows who those countries are. Follow George Webb's channel and he'll tell you what those countries are, He says that he's supporting them. Jason Goodman is supporting this country. And anyone who criticizes or attacks him is then anti, an anti of this thing. And it's the worst thing you can possibly be. Well, the ADL that came up with that come out of the B'nai B'rith, a secret society, right? Jewish Freemasonry. And, who else came out of that is fucking Corsi. Jerome Corsi is, he's raising international finance with Rockefellers and stuff like that for the B'nai B'rith, and then going on Alex Jones and saying that he knows Q and he's representing Q, going on, or Alex Jones coming and saying he personally knows Q, it's one of 10 people, and then this Patriot Soapbox thing being launched, the 24/7 live streaming Q channel. I mean, remember, Alex Jones wanted a 24/7 channel. Trump was talking about a 24/7 channel before the election. And what did we get along those lines? Only Patriot Soapbox, unfortunately. I mean, maybe there's another one. And I'm not even dissing these guys. I've digressed a little bit far now, but just to bring it back to Marcus's origins, publish the research. Where's your body of research, Marcus? That's how we really tell if someone's a truther or not. And I'm not saying you haven't done any. I think you've done way better research than Jason Goodman. But you're also presenting falsehoods as truth and fact. And you're entitled to your opinion. Everybody is. I'm not here for likes. People can fucking hate my guts. I don't care. I'm just telling you the world as I see it. And when I do research and when I look into things, I publish facts. You can go to my blog, burners.me, and I was involved with this clear and present danger LARP long before there was any lawsuit attached to it, long before I even knew who the fuck Dave Acton was, right? Because I was watching George Webb. I was a follower of his show from like day 9, maybe day 8, right? The first 50 days are deleted and almost impossible to find on the internet. First of all, why is that? Secondly, how is that? Like, does George have some kind of secret power behind the scenes of YouTube to get stuff taken down that the rest of us couldn't do? And, Jason, well, he certainly does seem to have that power. On his channel, they shut down a port for 8 hours and nobody even got investigated or in trouble or anything, right? Marcus, on his channel, on just this live stream discussing me and this lawsuit, listen to the words coming out of his mouth. The F word. And I don't mean fuck. You're allowed to say fuck on YouTube and social media. There's another F word. It's hate speech. If any of us use that other F word the way he does, constantly, frequently, 100% our channel will get a strike and be taken down. Now, I don't know, maybe is that why he's praising DeFango as the only person with integrity on the internet? Which, funnily enough, is like, that's kind of Robert David Steele's shtick, that if you look at those emails that DeFango published, that's kind of what they're saying as well. Like, that's Tanya Biss's narrative. Seriously, she's sending emails to Robert David Steele saying, DeFango's the only one we can trust. Let him pick out who are the 12 truthers to trust, and then you'll go on Alex Jones and Congress or whatever and tell everyone that's who to trust. Like, what the fuck? That is not how logic works, people. That's not how the Trivium works. Present the evidence, discuss the evidence, debunk the evidence. Go with the evidence. And YouTube is not evidence-based, but the court system is. And the judge, in her scathing response to, she was obviously a little unhappy about being dragged into this SDNY Swigert versus Goodman case, but she was forced to. Dave's moves forced her hand. This judge was stalling the case and it was going nowhere, right? And she easily could have come out and dismissed it. This is a judge, dude. This is a judge. They have the power to do whatever. And a judge wants to take the time to write a lengthy response, detailed, addressing all the specific claims and saying this is frivolous and this is a conspiracy theory and this is bullshit and this is a LARP. Well, at the end of that, the judge will just write case dismissed and never have to deal with this fucking bullshit thing again. But that is not what happened. And it's very, very interesting to me looking at who comes out presenting the false information about this case, trying to interpret the judge's ruling for their audience so everyone gets an idea about it, but that's actually framing a narrative. It's not looking at the facts. So you go to burners.me and go to Tracking Morose as well. Thankfully, Morose is, still here fighting the fight with us for truth on the internet. And, whatever you think about the personalities involved, truth is truth. Bring the evidence out, bring the documents out, primary source documents, what people say and admit to in their own words, get them, what do they say in a court of law or sworn under oath in a deposition, These things are all like by themselves. It doesn't mean it's true just because it's like that, but this is a standard of evidence, and the courts have a standard of evidence, federal rules of evidence. Jason Goodman has already got stuff in his cases tossed out for not meeting these. What Dave Acton said in one of his streams is what he can do to these legal cases is like, when a patient's having a cardiac arrest and you go down and treat them and you put the paddles onto them and you breathe life back into this case. He has absolutely done that in that Stephen Biss, Robert David Steele versus Jason Goodman case. And you look, I'm no supporter of either Biss or Steele. Steele 100% is a freaking Intel community LARPer, right? I do support his open source everything manifesto, and I believe that the government systems need to all be open source and owned by the public and not sold to them by private corporations. That's how we get this Palantir. That's how we get all this fucking, spying and LARPing, being backed by the government. And I did a 4.5 hour video, GovLARP, and with PowerPoint presentations attached to it with the citations for everything that I'm saying. That's how I publish my research. My opinions on this court case are based on reading the fucking documents. And I'm no lawyer, but first of all, I did a year of law school at a really good university, so I do have some legal training. Secondly, I've started multiple companies that have gone through very large corporate transactions, and to do that requires lawyers. And I've personally been in 3 lawsuits in my personal life, all of which I won, and spent about $1 million on lawyers through that. But through my corporations and all the various legal matters that I've been involved with since 1995, when you go through an IPO and take your company public on a stock exchange, the level of due diligence you have to do, this is like teams of lawyers, like a room of 10 lawyers in meetings for 3 months, going through every fucking document in the company, every line of code. And, you get to talk to these guys and ask them things. And, I've been through corporate cases. So anyway, I've had some experience in the legal system around the world, including the United States, and then intellectual property as well. That's my business. So for intellectual property reasons, you need to have a strong, solid understanding of the law. Now, I don't understand all the intricacies of different versions of state law, but Dave Acton certainly does, right? And that's a guy with 6 degrees. And I am learning so much from him. It's amazing. I have massive respect for him. And he's never asked me to do anything. He's never asked me to say anything. He's never asked me for money. You know, he's never called me up, Jason Goodman to DeFango style, and said, oh, hey, Steve, you know, hey, listen, this court case that I've got against Goodman, will you just go in and say something for me, say whatever? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll say whatever. No fucking way. The only thing is when Goodman brought me up, and Titus Frost and Leopard Morose, Sugar Shine, and others, Lift the Veil, in his bizarre conspiracy theory that anyone who posts a post on Steemit is involved with money laundering because he went to Steemit's public address and it was a PO box. This is the level of fucking evidence and quality of research that's being presented as truth to the YouTube audience, right? This is Quinn Michaels saying that the weight of the Earth's rotation is being fucking, the weight of the world's population is affecting the Earth's rotation, and we need to reduce the population rate or else the Earth's going to spin out of control. Like, Jason Goodman puts this shit out and asks people for donations and Patreons and super chats. I never asked for any of that shit, and Dave Acton has never asked for any of that shit. And you know, while we're just on this topic, Fiona Barnett never did either. Right? Her book is free. You can download that at burners.me as well. So, you know, I really appreciate the service that Dave is doing on his channel and to the YouTube community with these lawsuits and educating all of us about the law. And he initially filed in South Carolina because that's where the damage was done, the Port of Charleston. And really, I think trying to bring attention to this legal issue, which is a weakness in our critical infrastructure, right? It's a cybersecurity threat. Not just to the United States, but to many other countries as well, to the West. I mean, try doing what Jason Goodman and George Webb did in China. Try that and see what happens to you. See if you're even breathing within 3 hours of that, right? That's for you. But these guys can shut down a port by saying clear and present danger, the name of a fucking Tom Clancy novel. They can do a YouTube lab named after a Tom Clancy novel and shut down the 8th biggest port in the United States. Now, we need to sound the alarm about that, people. You think Trump is going to fucking fix that? Well, he could have, but he hasn't. Who's going to fix it? They don't even understand. They don't understand cybersecurity in the highest levels of politics and power in the West. And we need to, because China and Russia, they completely get it. They're very, very good at it. And even more scary is the deep state, these non-state actors having access to state-developed technology and funding for cybersecurity. So thank you, Dave, for all your work in doing that. And I've definitely learned a lot. He filed in the Port of Charleston, and the judge said, no, fuck this, we'll move it to New York. And it got placed with a judge who was hired by Robert Mueller and was the general counsel of the FBI. And do you know what happened in the Port of Charleston lawsuit immediately before that transfer to that judge? Dave Acton filed a court document talking about Okie Marshall Richards Jr., an FBI contract informant who did 30 or 40 shows with Jason Goodman, crowdsourced the truth as the Hudson Report, Rock Hudson, part of the Hudson Intelligence Group, right? Like this is one of these private intelligence groups LARPing on the internet and using others as proxies to do their dirty work for them. Now we hear about Shadowbox, Thomas Schoenberger, DeFango, Trevor Fitzgibbon, Well-Traveled Fox, another private intel group, Reputation Defense, they call it, but when you look at the actions of some of these people, you can see there's a lot more reputation destruction. Mike Flynn, General Flynn, he had one called Wikistrat. Have a look into that. Robin Glitch, she claimed to be part of the senior fellow at the London Centre with Anthony Schaefer, who is the original Able Danger. Go have a look at this London Centre, and Jim Wolseley is he's part of that, right? Robin Glitz makes no. Well, she actually did deny on Twitter that she had anything to do with the CIA, but it's the very basis of her timeshare fraud lawsuit is that, you know, she was doing time on secondment from the FBI to the CIA, and she wasn't able to record that time on her FBI timesheets because it was classified CIA missions, right? And, you know, who else was going between the FBI and the CIA? Oh, yeah, Peter Strzok. What about Andrew McCabe, Deputy Director of the FBI that supposedly is chasing George Webb with all these like honey traps of Janine Lundemulder set up as a porn star, bondage dominatrix, and George has been a sex slave, and McCabe has got the tapes, whatever. You know, it's parallel construction around the real narrative. There is a real narrative behind all of these things. This FBI corruption, these GovLarps, you know, even these attacks on, you know, domestic critical infrastructure. FBI setting up people to be patsies and do terrorist attacks, right? They keep doing all this shit. We know that the FBI is corrupt, right? We know it. This is evidence that's coming out in court. So Dave files that, it moves to New York, gets this judge, and then he realizes that under New York state law, it's actually possible to file civil RICO, even though this is an area of law that is pretty new and untested. So he loads that into the case, and the judge just kicked that out. The judge is like, that's not what the civil statute's for. You can't do this. This is bullshit. Fuck off with it, right? And look, fair enough. You know, he didn't get anywhere with the RICO, but I think that was always a long shot anyway, in my opinion, not knowing too much about it. But what I do know is that Giuliani did use it to prosecute when he took down the mob. You know, people saying that Donald Trump was part of helping with that, you know, that he was basically an undercover guy for the FBI, luring the mob into Atlantic City, and you know, there were prosecutions in the era when all this was going on. There was major mob takedowns from Giuliani, and that's happening again now under the era of Trump. Major mafia takedowns. We didn't see this shit under the Clintons. We didn't see this under Obama. Are you kidding? Under Obama, we saw Fast and Furious. We saw fucking under Bush, you know, Operation Gunrunner. Like, Fast and Furious basically was El Chapo. We're going to exclusively arm El Chapo using military-grade weapons, and the DEA and ATF will be watching, but won't be able to do shit about it, but they'll just be making sure the other cartels don't come in to mess up the shipments. And if they do, they'll go in and bust the other cartels, right? That was all fun and games until suddenly it didn't work anymore for El Chapo. So I don't know what's going on there. Have a look into, you know, Nancy Pelosi being in Venice at the same time as El Chapo's wife, right? Like, this is the shit that's going on in the Democrats. And I think that's an important thing to highlight in Marcus Conte coming and expressing these opinions about me, is that this guy's a Democrat, right? And look, I try to have respect for different political viewpoints. I understand people have them, but how can you possibly be supporting the Democrat Party as it is today in 2019? Right? I understand people don't like Trump. Personally, I love Trump. You know, I've always respected and admired him. I read The Art of the Deal at a very young age, and that inspired me to go into business for myself and become an entrepreneur, and I became extremely successful. I followed that guy's philosophies, and I made like millions of dollars out of it, large amounts of money. And thank you, Mr. Trump. Richard Branson as well. Now it's come out in this Me Too era, and Branson's Island not being that far from Epstein's Island, and Ghislaine Maxwell, and these connections between the UK and this type of operation, and the UK and Spygate and everything. Well, you know, I'm less of a fan of Richard Branson than I was when I was in my 20s. But, you know, I've met Branson as well. I've talked to him 35 minutes. I've met Trump, and I talked to Mr. Trump and Melania for maybe 5 minutes. And you couldn't imagine two more lovely, gracious, nice people. When, you know, I was a nobody. It was the opening of the Wynn Casino in Vegas in black tie. Mr. Trump was in black tie. Two beautiful ladies in beautiful dresses, and we just, you know, I shook his hand in the corridor, and I only later realized that he says in his books he's a germaphobe and he hates shaking hands with people. I went up to him like, "Oh, Mr. Trump, I'm Steve Outram from Australia. I've read all your books." And I went and put my hand out to shake his hand. It's pretty funny. But, you know, he didn't bat an eye. And I think that he's been groomed for this role from, you know, for a long time. He's had his eye on it a long time. He's surrounded himself with people that can assist him in this goal of getting there. And some of those people are maybe pretty shady people, you know. I sort of see Roy Cohn as like an Epstein type thing. And hey, Trump was even connected to Epstein back in the 90s. But you can't say that Trump is connected to Epstein now because, you know, he's very publicly disavowed him. But what's going to go on with this bullshit death and this bullshit fake things from Ghislaine, you know, this is why we really need the alternative media community, the truther community, because mainstream media is just propaganda. It's Operation Mockingbird. It's CIA. They're not going to do shit for us in researching this stuff. You've seen what they did. And look, I have to hand it to the Daily Mail that they actually have come out and said, oh yeah, it was all staged, right? With in relation to Ghislaine's In-N-Out Burger thing. And this debate of, well, you know, did he really kill himself or was he off or what, is very conveniently distracting people away from the real story here, which is arms trafficking. You look into arms trafficking, the Al Hamanah arms deal, Adnan Khashoggi. It's no coincidence that they made such a big stink about that Khashoggi journalist, you know, getting killed in Saudi, supposedly. He was a relative of this Khashoggi guy. Trump bought a yacht from him. Trump sold his yacht to fucking Al Walid bin Talal, right? Look at these people. Look at the royal prince's involvement in the aerospace industry and in the weapons trade. There have been so many, you know, scandals in the United Kingdom, and people in the US are maybe not aware of them, but here in Australia and New Zealand, we read about this stuff. We hear about it, probably more so Australia than New Zealand. But this is the sort of news we get because we're Commonwealth countries. We're part of the Queen, right? The Queen has maybe 70, 80 countries. I think she rules over 25% of the Earth's land mass. So, you know, we're part of it. Canada's part of that too. And you know, we in this country, New Zealand, we kind of follow Great Britain quite a bit. In Australia, they more follow in the States. But still, you know, it means something here, the royal family, that we can't really specifically speak about them or be too critical about them because they do have the power of life and death over us. But, you know, the alt media needs to be there sounding the alarm about this international conspiracy, this cabal, this Luciferian pedo cabal. You know, I don't think Epstein was just screwing 12-year-olds. We know that they were trafficking them for blackmail, okay, but that's not the end of the story, guys. That's not the bottom of the pit. Pizzagate is the bottom of the pit, right? Pizzagate is real, for fuck's sake. Look at Nexium. They're training people to be Luciferians. They're bundling donations for Hillary Clinton, right? Nexium and El Chapo are feeding the fucking Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders is a communist, and Marcus Conte is a massive fan of this communist Bernie Sanders, right? He's got 3 homes. He drives around in an Audi R8. I mean, that's a fucking nice car. I've driven one of them. I'd happily be driving around in that right now. He's three homes, right? Do you think the state is going to give you 3 homes under communism? I'm sure occasional cortex will say, yeah, for sure, everyone get 3 homes. Or reparations, vote for us. And, you know, you guys will get free money. It's like the oldest trick in the political book. And this is a party of tricks and deception and lies. Pizzagate has exposed that. Nexium has exposed that. I want to know. That's what I want to know. So, you know, my support for Trump politically has been unwavering. But if we go into this election and his platform is still lock her up, I'm going to call bullshit. But, you know, it's still more than a year away, people. It's more than a year away. And look how much President Trump has done. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, people can say I'm a shill. Well, no, I'm quite openly telling you my support for Trump, quite openly telling you the reasons I support this man who I have met personally. And, you know, I'm not trying to interfere in any election. I'm not a registered foreign agent. I don't accept money to alter the political events in other countries. But look at people who are trying to alter political events in countries, or trying to infiltrate groups like WikiLeaks, infiltrate groups and then discredit them. You know, is that the behavior of Marcus Conte coming into the truther community? Meets with Jason Goodman, then discredits him. Meets with George Webb, then discredits him. Interviews me, then discredits him. Meets with Lift the Veil and then says some shit about him. You know, he was discrediting DeFango and then seems to have completely turned around to be supporting DeFango, and now he's going against Tom about a year ago, right? DeFango doxed the guy, outed him as the founder of Cicada, and then has been on this campaign with a bunch of people furiously attacking the guy ever since. And I'm not saying Thomas is any kind of saint, you know. I should be able to say that it's not right for DeFango to attack Thomas, without that being a statement that anything Thomas has ever done is endorsed by me, right? I mean, the people that would have you think that are engaged in sophistry. They're trying to use logical fallacies to control your mind, right? Think for yourself. Look at the evidence. You think Thomas is a bad guy? Okay, fine. So what? That's got nothing to do with me. But the same people attacking Thomas and working with Defango, who used to work for Thomas, who are in financial disputes with him, right? Now they're offering bitcoins to fucking kidnap him. You know, the same crew of people as they're attacking me. And why is it that they're attacking me, right? What have I done to them? If you have a look at anybody that I'm fighting with on the internet, they attack me first. Jason Goodman spread outrageous fucking slander about me, then brought me into his lawsuit saying that I'm part of some fucking money laundering conspiracy because I wrote a steam-it post about him and, 100 people liked it. This is fucking cockamamie shit. When my name gets brought up in a lawsuit, you bet I'm going to answer that lawsuit and respond in some way. Now, luckily, the judge said, no, you don't have to. And that's great. Gets me out of that lawsuit. If my name comes up in any more, fuck, I'll do the same thing. Or, I always reserve the right to countersue. But I'm not like Gabe Hoffman, bullying people with my wealth, that because I can afford tons of lawyers, I'm going to fucking sue anyone who talks shit about me. No, and I don't think that's necessary. But there is a breaking point for everyone. And, accusing me of illegal activities and crimes, that's something that could have professional repercussions. It doesn't matter, even if I was guilty of it, right? And had never been charged with any crime, then fucking talking about it on YouTube, well, fuck, mate, would I lie awake at night? Probably not, because I wasn't charged in a court of law. But if I'm not guilty of something and people say that I am, then of course that's of great concern, because it's false information, disparaging to my character, potentially with negative professional repercussions in my life, not only to me, but to the rest of my family as well. And so anyone who makes any allegations about people on the internet should be forced to produce evidence about it, right? Go to burners.me, that's what I do. Go to my Twitter, that's what I do. These other guys talking shit about me, talk all the shit you want, show your fucking evidence. Produce it, please, right? But Defango said that I stole the program that I wrote, Hot Dog, a Visual Basic HTML editor that I wrote in 5 days in 1995, the first alpha version of it anyway. It took 8 weeks from having the idea to building the website, getting it up on the web, taking credit cards, being in business, help files, graphics, the works, all of that work that I did by myself, from which I was successful. He is saying that I used NSA technology to reverse engineer that software from my competitors. Now, the program was written in Visual Basic, and this was actually a huge bone of contention with Microsoft, because Visual Basic back then used to crash all the time. It was buggy as shit, and people that were Windows users from the old days, and maybe even Windows users today, are familiar with this statement, the blue screen of death, which you would get when Windows would lock up and you'd have to Control-Alt-Delete to reboot your computer. Well, people would be using our application and that blue screen of death would happen, and they would blame us. But in fact, it was nothing to do with our application. It was bugs in the driver libraries from Microsoft that came with Visual Basic. So the only way we could make our software robust on Microsoft's platform was to abandon Microsoft developer tools to use Ball and Delphi. Now look, this is 1995, Ball and Delphi isn't around anymore, and Microsoft is still probably the world leader in developer tools. So they definitely won that battle, and I think they're a different company today than they were. This is under the days of Bill Gates as CEO, right? This is how old I'm talking about. But we had to rewrite it from Visual Basic into Delphi, and the developer relations manager for Microsoft Australia. So his job is to be nice to the software community, to programmers that are using Microsoft's tools to build applications. And we had probably, in fact, certainly, the most successful commercial application written in Visual Basic on the Windows platform at the time in the world. Not just internet, of any type. The amount of revenues, users, everything, Fortune 500 using it, like, there was not industrial grade software built on Visual Basic, and probably for this reason with the buggy libraries. But we were there, we should have been there, shining light showcase. And this motherfucker threatened me. He said Do you know how powerful Microsoft is? You know, you're a tiny little development company in the arse end of the world. That's what they call Australia. And, you know, we could crush you like a bug. You know, really think long and hard before you do this, because it's definitely not in your best interest. I mean, this is like the most fucking explicit threat that you can imagine, right? It's hard to misinterpret that. And you know, I'm the CEO of a public company, right? I mean, there's laws against this type of shit. I got to defend my shareholders. But anyway, I forgot even why I was on this topic of fucking Microsoft Visual Basic. No, that's right. So Defango says that I reverse engineered my competitors with NSA tools, right? I mean, how the fuck would I get NSA tools in Australia? Did these tools for reverse engineering software that I believe the news just came out in 2019, but the tools were written in 2013. Did they really exist in 1995 when they started writing them in 2013? I mean, there are time phone hacks and shit like that, so possibly they used that technology, or I had access to that technology to give myself these reverse engineering tools. But secondly, the competitor software was written in C++. It wasn't written in fucking Visual Basic. So how do you reverse engineer C++ code into a software development platform where you draw buttons on the screen and then you attach code behind the buttons? It's completely different programming languages. It's a completely different style of object-oriented programming. And you know, it just shows that Defango, for all his claims to be this master hacker, he isn't a programmer. He isn't a systems analyst, you know? Maybe he's written a couple of fucking scripts or modified some scripts that he downloaded off the web before. Maybe his buddy Chronic Alp, what's his name? Chronic Alps. That's a good one. I'll stick to that one, Prepper Kitty. Maybe Chronic Alps is fucking, you know, helping him write some fucking Python scripts or something. I don't know, but you know, I built applications that fucking changed the world, and I wrote that code myself, and I built the companies myself, hired the people myself, went to the fucking TV, went to the newspapers, went to the stock market, right? All that shit by the age of fucking 23. And nobody will ever take that away from me. I've done plenty of commercial shit since then as well, but I've always had a passion for research and for history, you know, and I've been investigating it. I was lucky enough to retire again in 2013 for the second time and spend 4 years working on what I thought was a book. And I made the decision to publish in this multimedia forum on the internet rather than just print, because, you know, fewer and fewer people are reading books these days. And I thought about what would a successful book look like a New York Times bestseller, you know? Maybe there's fucking 20,000 copies, maybe 50,000 copies. You know, my Shadow History of Burners series, which would be my book about the tech industry and Burning Man, I guess, that's up to above 150,000 views now, maybe 200,000 views. The episode 1 just on Yarn's channel is about 30,000. So, you know, that's better than I would do with a New York Times bestseller. Now, how much money would I make selling 30,000 units of a book? Fuck all, right? 100 grand if you're lucky. So it's not really worth 4 years of my life to make 100 grand, right? I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I want the truth to get out, and the channels of the truth are being heavily suppressed. And have a look at what happens to me, the way I get attacked and the way people gang up to attack me online, and look at what they accuse me of. You know, these attackers continually criticizing me in a gang with fake news and fake narratives and false information and misinformation and distortions of the truth, and never ever, you know, attacking the evidence that I present, never debating the facts of the matter. You know, they say that I'm a gang stalker. Well, who am I stalking? And then they say, well, I'm in a gang with Thomas. Now, maybe Thomas is a gang stalker. Certainly what he does is, in his tweets, he copies a lot of people and he tries to put words in our mouth. He'll copy me and Titus on a tweet and he'll say, Steve and Titus agree, go look at them. And look, anyone that follows Thomas can see that he does that, right? But I don't sit there crying about it. I haven't asked them not to do it. It's Twitter. It's social media, people. It's a conversation, and it's not just one side of a conversation, right? It's like, look, if people want to fucking bring a tweet to my attention or to my audience's attention, to copy me on a tweet or whatever, you do Twitter. You do that. That's how you fucking use the medium. That's how you build your own channel, by reaching out and including other audiences. That's a great thing about Twitter, the virality of it. But Thomas does have a YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel called Sophia Music, and Marcus says that we all should be focused on inspiration and love. Go and watch Sophia Music, right? And look, there's some shit on there that's creepy. I'll admit, some shit on there I won't even watch it, and particularly the videos that Lestat made, that to me I think quite possibly could contain subliminal messages, either auditory with the music, the visual. Like, I never watched those cicada puzzle videos because I was like, fuck, it could be trying to hypnotize and mind control me. And then you look at people that did get into it and start investigating it, and it seems that many of them do have psychiatric problems, right? They start to get fucked up by this shit, looking into these puzzles. Now, is there some kind of sinister operation going on targeting autists on the internet? Quite possibly. 4chan called me a super autist, which I thought was great, and about my burner series, I do research things very thoroughly, and in the case of that, I had to look at not just how large the Burning Man community is, but how powerful it is. Like, you see my presentation, how many of the world's and all this world of the Satanism, that's the biggest fucking thing in Satanism, Burning Man, and I didn't know that. I didn't know their event they had in 1996 called Halco when I first went in 1998. I thought it was a tech industry thing. Like, oh, you're on the internet, you should go to Burning Man. Okay, I'll check it out. I go, it's great, and then I go the second time, 2001, and it was way different from 98, and they had all the art cars and the art installations and the costumes, and in 1998 it was more a bunch of people camping in tents with a little bit of that, but by 04 it was completely that, and 01 there was a lot of it. So I came back and I was amazed at the change. I was like, wow, this thing really evolves, and it is a city. It's Black Rock City. Burning Man starts again this weekend, and guys like DeFango, like they speak as if there's some expert on Burning Man because they know people who go to it, and they know the founders of Burning Man, and everyone hates me in Burning Man or whatever. These people don't know shit. You don't know shit about Burning Man until you go to it 3 times, right? Go to it 3 times, stay the whole week, stay and pack up your fucking camp, right? And then drive home, right? That the mental effort required after you've been partying in the desert for a week and all you want is like some clean water and a shower and a decent hot meal, and it's that your body is just craving it, and you feel like you can't go on anymore. You've barely had any sleep. You've had exhilaration, exhaustion, the best experience of your life. And at the end of that, when you feel like that, instead of just getting in your car and fucking off like everyone else around you seems to be, you stay and you pack up the shit, you clean up the camp, you break down the art installations. It's leave no trace, and they take it very seriously. There can't be a speck of glitter, right? Or like a fiber from a fluffy tutu on the ground of your camp, right? Seriously, they have teams of people inspecting the desert for weeks after Burning Man just to prove that everything has absolutely been cleaned up to leave no trace. But what percentage of the 80,000 plus going to Burning Man do you think are there on the Tuesday cleaning the shit up? It's definitely not even 10%. I would say maybe about 5%. So that's what separates the men from the boys, as we say down here, is do you stay around to pick up your shit at Burning Man? And these are people who haven't even seen a burn, right? If you haven't been there to see the burn, you're not even a fucking Burning Man tourist, right? And what's wrong with you? You should get there. People say, well, how can I support Burning Man and tell people to go to Burning Man when it's a huge satanic thing? Well, look at the world we live in. Do I support the planet Earth? Yes. Do I think that the Pope is a Satanist, Luciferian, in a giant fucking snake thing? Yes. Do I think the city of London is surrounded by 10 dragon statues? Yes. Right? How can I go to the city of London if there's 10 dragon statues? Because it's a fucking awesome city, you know. I'll probably go check out the Vatican one day, although I'm a little bit spooked out by that. But, you know, the Pope is the most powerful person in the world, officially, in terms of official power. Are there people above the Pope, or creatures, entities above the Pope? I think for sure there are. But, you know, for the purposes of this discussion and the official world we live in, the Pope is in charge and he's a Luciferian pedophile. And, you know, maybe he personally isn't a pedophile, but certainly involved in covering up for pedos. George Pell from Australia, the number 3 guy in the Vatican, running all the money, the richest organisation on earth officially. This guy's in jail right now for being a pedo. He just lost his appeal. Pedo, you know, molesting priests himself and covering up the molestation of other priests for like fucking 30 or 40 years. The Pope came out, this current Pope came out and said, oh, you know, it's about 8% of priests are pedos, but, you know, it'd be about the same in normal society. Well, sadly, in normal society, it's 2%, which is fucking terrible. We need to find that 2%, round them up and shoot them. But in the priests, it's 8%. So it's 400% of normal society is how many pedos there are in this richest organisation. We live in this fucking Luciferian pedo world, and we have to bust free of these chains. We have to break out of it. That's what QAnon is about. That's what Pizzagate is about. And that's what the promise of the Tea Party libertarians is about, right? The Tea Party basically came into the establishment Republican Party, took it over, and is shaking it up, right? And what's it up against? Well, it's up against the extreme far left. You know, the Green New Deal of fucking cow farts and trains to Hawaii, of AOC, or this, you know, Judaism, communism, which is the Bolsheviks of Bernie Sanders. Have a look around the world for what in history, for what the Bolsheviks did. You know, their promise was the promise of Bernie Sanders. Their reality and what they delivered was a Holocaust way many times worse than the alleged 6 million, right? I mean, the Bolsheviks is bad news. And yeah, Trump is aligned with Likud. That seems very obvious, that he has a family connection. His daughter's Jewish, his son-in-law's Jewish, his grandson's Jewish. Netanyahu used to come to the Kushners, and Jared would give up his bedroom so that Bibi could sleep in a comfortable bed when he would visit New York, right? Like, Bibi doesn't want to go to a hotel. He wants to go to the Kushners, right? So that's how tight they are. I mean, how's Trump going to get elected president without being nice to the Jews, right? I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's possible in America. I mean, have a look, you know, maybe one day fucking Ilhan Omar would be elected president as an open anti-Semite and openly praising and loving the Muslims, and then that'll be the leader of America. But the day that happens, kiss the fucking free world goodbye, man. Have a look at what happens to populations as the Muslim percentage increases. And once it goes above 10%, you start to have some real problems. And you look at what's happening in Paris right now, you're seeing this playing out. Riots in the street. I won't go to Paris again because I was there on my honeymoon and we were like half a block from a fucking riot. We were literally nearly in a riot. And yeah, there are parts of Paris that the police won't go. And you go to areas where it's above 90%. Well, this is like Afghanistan, right? This is like beheadings and women can't drive and people being stoned to death in the town square, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad religion, but what I am saying is that in terms of people living side by side in harmony in the world, I don't believe that religion allows for that to happen. And nor do I believe that this Luciferian, satanic, pedo cannibalism is a religion that we must accept and tolerate because we have freedom of religion. I don't accept that at all. I completely reject that. You know, I think Western civilization is based on these Judeo-Christian values, and this is the Ten Commandments kind of stuff. And look, I don't have a beef with Judaism. I have a friend who's a rabbi, and he's given me amazing spiritual advice over the time, you know. He believes some really interesting stuff. And one of the things he said, which I find quite interesting, is that they believe the internet is the Messiah. He's an Orthodox from a family of rabbis. He's got the proper sideburns and everything like that. And, you know, in their mythology, in their religion, the earth was once pure and perfect like the Garden of Eden, and then it got fractured. into many different pieces. And one day when the Messiah comes, all the different fractured pieces of the earth are going to be put together again, and it's going to make one integrated, beautiful, perfect whole. Well, that's you can see how the internet is doing that. The internet is a net that is bringing all the different pieces of the world together into one. And, you know, is it there to promote and bring about a one world religion? Yeah, fucking oath it is, right? The internet is a weapon out of the Pentagon. And the internet was launched at the Presidio by Satanists doing black magic and satanic rituals at the same time as Burning Man, at the same time Michael Aquino was there, at the same time that all the satanic ritual abuse scandals were happening there. All that shit happened San Francisco Presidio military base at the same time. That's in my series, Silicon Valley Secret Weapon, The Shadow History of Burners. I go into great detail about all of that happened. So how can I use the internet when it's a satanic thing? It's because ultimately I believe that good shines through everything and good will always win. And the rabbi told me this. He told me this at a Hanukkah celebration. He said that, you know, in the think of darkness, and the darkness so vast that it fills the whole room. And then you light one tiny match on one tiny little candle and it brings light. And suddenly the light fills the whole room, that tiny little candle, all the darkness is gone from the room. And to eliminate the darkness from our lives and from the world, it's just like that. It's just like lighting that match and that candle. It's effortless. Once the light appears and it shines, the rest is effortless. So I support Marcus's call for more love and inspiration on YouTube. At the same time, I think it's really important that the truther community focus on the real targets. And the real targets of the truther community are not each other. They're not anyone in the alt media trying to get to the truth and present evidence. The real targets are the people trying to stop that from happening. And the interesting thing about, you know, their deceitful tactics is that they'll come in and they'll say, anyone attacking me is trying to stop the truth getting out. You know, have a look who has that narrative. It's Jason Goodman. It's DeFango, right? The victim narrative. And we're just here trying to get the truth out, and anyone who criticizes us is an organized conspiracy against us, gang stalking us, right? When they're the ones doing the gang stalking and the doxing and the striking, the gay ops, the shutting channels down, you know? So this is the classic leftist projection. It's Alinsky tactics, right? That you accuse your opponent of doing the things that you yourself are guilty of. And, you know, you should know them by their fruits, but you can sort of know them by the way they deal with situations as well. And so if this is their tactic, ganging up with people to spread misinformation and to cast ad hominem attacks, you know, to attack the messenger rather than the evidence, these are not good people. These are the people we're fighting against. And, you know, whether they get paid, whether they get super chats or lemons, whether they just do it for shits and giggles, whether there's social pressure from some cult or secret society that they're a part of, they are not going about their business trying to get the truth out to people. And that's what the truther community needs. So I think that it's important for the real truthers to stick together, to not get caught into this infighting, and to focus on the big picture here. You know, the story is not Epstein hanging himself. The story is fucking Epstein proves Pizzagate. Nexium proves Pizzagate. Look how little coverage Nexium got. Billionaires, multiple billionaires, the president of Mexico's kids, you know, at least half a dozen Hollywood actresses, all kinds of people tied up with it. The Surgeon General of the US, Kristen Gillibrand's parents meeting at a fucking Nexium thing, Roger Stone connecting into it, right? How can, like, Roger Stone be all over the press for fucking WikiLeaks, something that didn't even happen and he didn't have anything to do with, and yet he doesn't get even a single mention in the press for being a fucking paid consultant to Nexium? Nexium that's doing Luciferian experiments. It's got patents on, you know, subjecting people to all forms of psychological torture, then measuring their mental responses to see if they have Luciferian tendencies or not. Why would a child sex trafficking cult want a method of testing to see if people have Luciferian tendencies, right? If there wasn't a Luciferian pedo cabal. It's right there. It's the patent. I published that one on Steemit. That's not on burners.me, I don't think, but if you look at Steemit, Steve Outram, Nexium patent, for determining Luciferians. You can read about that one. And I've also written about is Nexium and MK Ultra brownstone operation, which absolutely it is. This is what... And, you know, we know this phrase, brownstone operations, has entered the popular lexicon thanks to George Webb, who said that he himself went to Epstein's parties in New York and that he had a roommate who was a Secret Service guy who had video footage of some of Epstein's parties. So, you know, is this a real member of the truth community? What about, you know, Thomas Paine, Michael Moore with his, you know, this victim that possibly led to Jenny Moore's death, this victim with evidence that, you know, is going to implicate Bill Clinton. And, you know, he makes this big deal out of it, and then he's like, oh, no, I can't go public with it. And then changes his mind. He's like, oh, I can go public with it, you know, in the interest of public decency. I'm going to launch a Patreon channel with Jason Goodman, and he and I will share this vitally important public information to Patreon-only subscribers. Now, is that a real fucking truther? You know, I don't know. You know, these people are LARPers, and I'm calling out these LARPers, and I've got years and years and years of posts on my website doing that, sometimes with great personal consequences to myself. You know, I think that I could make an argument that I'm the highest level whistleblower that Silicon Valley has ever had. You look at the stuff that the Zach Voorhees thing is putting out about Google, like, oh, Google fucking, you know, shadow bans certain keywords. Like, yeah, look at the shit that I've put out about Google and what they fucking get up to, right? And I don't know who else has been, you know, talking so much from as a Silicon Valley insider about the occult, the black magic, the rituals, the ties to Bohemian Grove, and everything like that. So anyway, I don't need to toot my own horn for that. All I'm trying to do is publish this research, get my evidence out there. You know, I'm interested in it personally. I want to know what's really going on in the world. And I think I'm 46 years old. You know, I've met some of the leaders of the world. I've fucking done all kinds of stuff. I've been to some of the most elite locations and hotels. I think a couple of times I even maybe was potentially scouted out or being tried to recruit it into the cabal or the secret society. But I think that's a story for another day, that one. So anyway, I think I'm wrapping up on what I wanted to talk about today. Maybe I'll pull over somewhere so I can answer some questions from the live chat. Who's in there? Parody Lives, Ghost Crab. Great. I've got some wrenches. Fantastic. Hi, guys. Johnny's List. Well, there's not really a lot of latency on this. Oh, Teenage FBI. If that's Lepo, hi. If that's Frank, fuck you, you fucking loser. What have we got going on here? It'd be nice if I could find one of these beautiful beaches that we have around the northern north shore of Auckland to stop on for you guys. Maybe I'll just talk a bit more shit. So yeah, let's see what else I can say about this lawsuit. Okay, so the judge's ruling in the lawsuit came out and said, oh, this is like conspiracy theories, this is all a joke, blah, blah, blah. But if you got to kind of read between the lines of the judge's things a lot of the time, because they're not allowed to say just their opinion, right? They have to have their opinion and the legal side of it, and you know, they have to constantly be trying to present the appearance of impartiality rather than the appearance of weighing up the facts and then making whatever decision their opinion wants and then checking certain ones of the facts to support that opinion. That's the reality of how the legal system works in most cases. You know, a piece of advice I got from a very highly paid lawyer once was, you don't go to the justice system seeking justice. He laughed at me. He said, I thought you're a successful businessman, Steve. How can you possibly be that naive? You know, I wanted my day in court and I wanted to, you know, defend my name and my honor against someone telling outrageous lies against me. And, you know, I never got to have my day in court. They never produced a single piece of evidence once. Because they were able to they leaked it to the media, or, you know, both the, I guess it's the plaintiff and the plaintiff's attorney, who was on a contingency fee, they denied having leaked this information to the media. So, you know, if you take them at their word, then the only other conclusion is that the media hacked my system to get these files. And this was the Rupert Murdoch media that published this information. And it was the time when the Murdoch hacking phone scandal was going down, that they were caught red-handed all around the world, regularly, like busting into people's answer phones to get the messages, intercepting emails, going through people's mail and trash, all kinds of stuff. This was a massive scandal. We're talking around, I don't know, 07, 08, 09, kind of around that time, I think. So possibly the Murdoch papers obtained this document from hacking. You know, I'd have to say, even though I'm a conspiracy theorist, a more plausible scenario is that this bitter and twisted plaintiff whose case was thrown out of court leaked the papers to the media in a hissy fit of a woman scorned. But it's the plaintiff's statement of claim, and it said shit like, I would come home from work and I would sit in the hot tub and play Xbox rather than paying attention to her. And that's true. I mean, this chick was fucking terrible, and then I got rid of her, you know. And then I would drop my towels on the floor and not pick them up as a way to attack her. And well, I mean, first of all, we're talking about a beach house, right? You drop towels everywhere at a beach house. Haven't you ever had a fucking beach house before? But you know, this chick was coming up with this idea that she needed $3 million, and she'd only been with me for 2 years. And where I lived in Melbourne, it's the state of Victoria, any claim of, was it alimony or whatever they call that, de facto relationship, there's a 3-year minimum of residing together permanently. And so she had to make this claim that from the day I met her, I moved in with her and lived with her permanently, like basically on the first date, even though I had 4 homes around the world and she lived in LA. And then also that I was abusive to her in the relationship. And the worst that she could come up with, is that I fucking played Xbox and dropped the towel on the floor, right? Oh, and then she said I had body odor and that my breath smelled, and that I'd been diagnosed with gout. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I do have body odor and my breath smelled, but you know, I don't understand how I would be able to live a life with so many friends and such a social person if that was the case, you know. So I think that's quite likely just, you know, someone trying to come up with nasty shit to say about you because they don't mind telling lies and spinning a narrative in order to get money. And anyway, this is her statement of claim. So she's not producing a witness who says that I had gout or a medical report, right? Like if I'd been to a doctor diagnosed me with gout, you know, maybe I could make an argument that was my private medical records and she had no right to it and it wouldn't be discoverable in the court case because it wasn't relevant. But I had no need to make any kind of argument like that because I never went to a fucking doctor and got diagnosed with gout. It's just something she fucking made up. It's laughable, right? It's laughable. And anybody can say anything. In the first document, the statement of claim, the purpose of a court case is to present the evidence, to establish what you did with evidence and facts. And based on this smear leaked to the media, that has then been, when you Google my name, the number one thing that comes up about Steve Outram for 11 years is ex-lover demands $3 million off fat slob, right? And with all the lurid details of this shit. And, you know, she tried to blackmail me, this woman. She's like, you know, you don't want, you know, embarrassing information about you being leaked to the public. So yeah, it's another thing that makes me think probably her or her attorney was behind it, the stuff being leaked to the public. But is this really embarrassing information? Someone says you smell? Like, what is this, fucking high school? But think about that. That's just like of you know, everyone I've met in my whole life, friends, enemies, whatever. You know, people have enemies. People have people who really want to do the worst by you. And this woman who is prepared to say anything about $3 million that she never had any entitlement to. I mean, this wasn't even, I would say, my girlfriend. It was our girlfriend. We were steady, going steady perhaps, but it wasn't exclusive. We didn't live together. She would come and visit me in Australia, and I'd go see her in the States. So it's just someone trying to get money and prepared to say anything. The worst they can do. They can't get the Fango saying I did all these fucking crimes. Well, here's someone in my house with access to all of my documents who's, sitting next to me when I'm on fucking business calls and that. How come she never accused me of any? Like, that would be somebody in a position to know, Where are all the people that I've had business dealings with suing me for poor or unethical business dealings, I don't have any of that shit, right? So, when you live a long life, stuff happens. And for people in their 20s and 30s who are unemployed and have got nothing better to do than, stream YouTube all day, and in many cases being supported by their parents, they haven't had this big, long and full life. Nothing's ever happened to them. And so they look at someone who's had something happen to them, and they're like, oh my God, that person's evil. They were in a court case. It's just fucking part of life. Shit happens, you deal with it, and the courts are there to say, are you really guilty of it or not? And if you go before a court and the court says you're not guilty, that doesn't actually mean 100% that you aren't guilty. You could be guilty and you got away with it. But regardless of your opinion or anything like that, what you have to deal with it is if something goes to court and they're not guilty, they're not guilty. You have to stick by the court's decision. If something goes to the court and it gets dismissed, but the court just throws it out, then it was probably completely frivolous. Nothing to it, no merit. And you can't have it both ways. You can't look at there was a lawsuit against Thomas Schoenberger saying that he embezzled $400,000 from a chick. You can't look at that and say he's guilty of embezzlement when the court was dismissed for being frivolous. And then at the same time, look at Dave Acton's lawsuit and the judge saying these conspiracy theories are silly, and saying that, well, then that means that everything that Dave did, he's guilty of. Like what? But the judge didn't dismiss the case. It didn't get thrown out of court. And Dave's got 21 days to respond, and he has quite publicly stated that he intends to continue with this. Go have a look on his new website, checkmatek2.net, and he's going through the case. And there's certainly an interesting cast of characters that are coming to light through this legal process. And that's why I think we have to be thankful for the legal process, because it is bringing this stuff out in discovery. And, I think DeFango really, he did us all a favor when he chose to basically dox everyone he'd ever worked with by publicly sharing his emails. Now, was that the complete batch of all DeFango's emails that he shared on that stream? Thomas says no. I don't know. If there were other emails he didn't share, he could be in a bit of trouble, I would think. But I'm no expert on that. But from what he did share, an amazing picture it gets painted, that we have this lawyer, Stephen Biss, who seems to be going around doing these kind of lawfare lawsuits. Like lawsuit, I'm going to sue fucking Devin Nunes' cow for 300 mil. Robert David Steele, I'm going to sue Jason Goodman for 24 mil. Or Larry Klayman, I'm going to sue Obama for like 1.8 billion. These lawyers, like, are they really better than Dave Acton and what he's doing to have these lawsuits like that because they're somehow getting paid for it, or a contingency fee? Dave has been slandered maliciously by Jason Goodman. He called the EMTs in Mount Shasta, trying to destroy the guy's career. Trying to destroy something he does to help the community. Teaching practices, right? What sort of person would want to stop someone from doing that, right? And then Goodman just goes on and on and on with it with no consequence of whatsoever. This is why the courts were created in the first place. That when civilians are doing things against each other that are against the law, there is recourse. That you should be able to go to the court to state your case, to say what's happening that's wrong, why you think it's wrong, present. Lost you guys there for a minute. You're still there. This part of town has changed since last time I was down here, so I'm just trying to find my way to the beach. Yep, lovely. Long Bay Regional Park. So the north shore of Auckland is a really beautiful place. And we have many, it's the suburbs up here, but we have suburbs where you can live with your family right next to the beach, and the kids can go play in the ocean every single day, which is pretty amazing. I don't know if I'm going to get a view of the beach where I'm going. Hopefully I'll get a nice park. You guys can see what a fantastic country this is. Look at that blue sky, the middle of winter. Been raining heavily the last few days, probably more rain to come, but clears up and it becomes fantastic. And these speed humps that I'm going over down here, they're called judder bars. When I was a kid living in England, they were called sleeping policemen, which is kind of funny. But here, judder bars. So, looking good. Turn around a bit and get an ocean view. All right, so to wrap up, and then I'll take questions from the chat. But you know, my thoughts in response to Marcus Conte is that you know, I'm not your enemy. You're attacking the wrong target. I think Jason Goodman and George Webb are valid targets because they are actively spreading disinformation on the internet, and whatever we can do to stop them, we should stop them, because that's the infiltration to the truth community, is these LARPers. You know, these LARPers with their fake news narratives, and the patriots, you know, trying to spread lies for money. So how do we stop that? Well, we stop that with evidence, with the truth, you know, with exposing it. But are they the real targets, George and Jason? No. Whoever the fuck is behind them, that's who we want to be dealing with. You know, who's behind Epstein? Who's at the top of the cabal? Who's behind Ghislaine Maxwell? And how do we stop them? Because, you know, right now today, there's probably another Epstein out there right now with girls in cages doing all this shit still. You know, I don't think the operation stops just because that guy gets locked up. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Yep, you can see the sea in the distance. It's probably as close as I'm going to get in this car park for you, unfortunately. It's a puddle. Hey, Joe, how you going, man? Just trying to learn this live streaming. I tried to get Streamlabs going on the phone, but I think that I think I've got to set up the stream on YouTube first and then plug into it. So I'll try that in the future. Island Girl wants me to take a walk so you can see the beach. Yeah, all right, why not? Orientation is locked. What up, everyone? Oh, better not put my license plate in there. So this is the, yeah, smoke them if you got them. This would be a nice spot for that, Jim. This is the North Island of New Zealand. So we've got two main islands, North Island and South Island. I like to walk through the grass. Hold on, I'll show you where I'm going. Look at this bird. This is called pukeko. This is like a New Zealand chicken. And this particular area, this Long Bay Regional Park, there's tons of these birds. It's beautiful blue feathers. If you look at the Maori royal cloaks, a lot of pukeko feathers get used in them. See, there's another one. Another one. They're everywhere. Oh, here we go, look at that. Hope this person there doesn't think I'm filming them on their bike. chops and milkshake on the way home. Nice. Yeah, so I have an Australian accent. They like to make fun of me down here. I say cheeps and six. They say chops and socks. Yep, Bernie would be a disaster. He would be terrible. He would be terrible. No, this is not a golf course. It's just a public park. Just gigantic, this park actually. This is a massive beach as well. Oh look, I can get down here. So that's an island. I don't know if you can see that offshore, or if we're going to zoom in. Yeah, that's an island. There's tons of islands around here. Considered some of the best sail cruising in the world. You know, that's why there's so many boats in the harbour. Here we go. Getting down the beach. Actually, Toronto's the coldest place I've ever been. So over there in the distance, I'll zoom to the chat. That's Rangitoto. That's a volcano, dormant volcano. One of the guys I went to high school with, a guy called Mark Ellis, is a famous rugby player here. We call our rugby players the All Blacks, and he's a real prankster. And he freaked out the whole people of Auckland one day. He set off a smoke bomb in the crater of the volcano in the morning, and everybody woke up and the volcano was smoking, and it caused like a nationwide panic. He got in a bit of trouble for that, but I thought it was pretty funny. And if you know the guy, like, that's the type of shit he was doing all the time. Extremely hilarious individual. Also in that same English class we had Brett from Flight of the Conchords. I also went to university with Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords, who used to dress the same way with the black turtlenecks and everything like that. He just always seemed a bit of a weirdo art student to me. I was studying commerce and law and, you know, expecting to have a career wearing a suit. So never thought those guys would amount to anything, but look at them now. Right, lovely. Well, I'm just going to go enjoy a walk on the beach now, I think. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate the support. I'll be back later with another stream probably. How the fuck do I stop this?